Hey, Team Bullseye. This is Chief Schaefer with another episode of On Target with the Bullseye Chief. I have our boss here, the 57th Wing Commander, General Goodman. Really wanted to get him on here as an intro of himself. We all know who he is, but maybe not all of you have met him as we make our way around the wing proper. And just to get everybody to know our boss out there and his perspective on the 57th Wing. How you doing, sir?
That's the best day of my life.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chief Schaefer.
Good, absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
It's great having you here. Why don't we, our episodes so far have been introducing individual 57th Wing Airmen to the 57th Wing at large. And I thought to myself, well, why don't we introduce like the what I call the number one airman, which is our boss, General Goodman, who we have the pleasure of working with and for. So if you wouldn't mind starting off with just a little intro of your history with the 57th Wing, as it often is with senior leaders, it is a deep history. So if you'd give a little insight to the Bullseye, Team Bullseye on that.
You bet. Well, thanks again for having me, and thanks for everyone for watching. Why don't I just kind of paint a broad picture of how I came to be here, both part of the 57th and other. I'm a military brat growing up, and so I grew up moving all over the country, all over the world, and when it came time to join, I thought, boy, this is something that I could really see myself doing, and I did. I entered via the academy, off to pilot training, Strike Eagles by trade, anywhere that Strike Eagles can be, both home station and deployed. I have done those things, both Lake Mead, Seymour, Mountain Home, and including Nellis as well. Was here both as a weapons school student in the 57th a long time ago, came back to instruct, went down the street and did a couple of years with the Thunderbirds as well, which is a treasure, and then went away and did other schools, commands, deployments, combat deployments, staff, and then had a wing command at Mountain Home as well. And then anyone who comes to the 57th as a wing commander has commanded somewhere else before as a wing, and had a chance to come back here. Although no one asked me, but when they told me, I was over the moon, had a chance to come back and be a part of the 57th Wing, where some really, really neat and cool things happen. And so that's where I've come from, if you will, and multiple assignments here at Nellis. It's great to be back.
Also great for me to be back and to be back here with you. I initially kind of met you in PACAF when I was at Kunsan, and you were the PACAF exec. And I don't know if we ever physically met, but we met via email at least, when we learned that we were going to be working together. So with your history in the 57th Wing, you've actually flown two platforms, the Strike Eagle as well as the F-16 with the Thunderbirds and now the Aggressors, correct?
Exactly right.
Okay. So if you wouldn't mind illustrating to Team Bullseye, I've mentioned it before in other episodes, but if you wouldn't mind presenting your wing vision and your priorities that we work on a daily basis, just as a reminder for everybody.
Yeah, you bet. These won't come as a shock to anybody. Even if you didn't know what they were, they make sense. The vision of this place of Nellis is this is Air Power's proving ground. This is where the Air Force, the Joint Force, and our allies and partners come to sharpen essentially our combat talons from an air power perspective. And so to do that, we get after the mission, and the mission is to train the next generation of warfighters for the high-end fight. Again, the Air Force, the Joint Force, and allies and partners. And so to get after that mission, we establish 4 priorities. The first is to execute the core mission, the thing I just said. The next is take care of airmen and their families. The next is to build, develop leaders. And then finally, to strengthen connection to each other and to the mission. And that may mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, and I could expound on any one of those priorities, but I would offer that we're a pretty busy wing, lots of things going on. And so if we're doing the things that don't fall underneath one of those priorities, we need to be asking ourselves what we could be doing better with our time.
Yeah. I think one of the keystones, you mentioned high-performing teams, one of the keystones of a high-performing team is they make something very complex and difficult look easy. You see it in professional sports where you'll watch someone execute or a team execute a play, and you'll at first glance go like, oh, that went off like like without a hitch, and then you realize, wait a minute, that was a really difficult thing they just did, and everyone made it look easy. I think that holds true here at Nellis across all the units in our wing, especially when you pull apart things like the Thunderbirds, what they do on almost a daily basis on the road, the 57th maintenance group, what they do on a daily basis, really is miraculous, as well as the weapons school they do on 2 different cycles throughout the year, and our OG, all the operations they run, as well as our AMOS, and similar to the weapons school, the cycles they run. If you wouldn't mind giving your impression from the lens of, if you put yourself in the shoes of a frontline supervisor in the 57th Wing, when they're working in those high-performing teams, what you feel they should be focused on and what you feel they should be proud of.
Ooh. Well, there's a lot to be proud of. What happens at Nellis can only happen at Nellis. The types of things that we get to do, whether it is the Thunderbirds, which are incredible, the weapons school, which is the best of the best coming through twice a year, the red flags and green flags and other exercises that the ops group puts on, which is where we train the entire Air Force, Joint Force Allies and Partners, to come prepare for the high-end fight. Incredible. It only happens here. Are the world-class maintenance and logistics professionals oriented through our AMOS schoolhouse. Incredible. And then the over 3,000 maintainers. And every single time that an airplane flies, it's about 6,000 miracles. And they're launching. I just flew today, and it just happens. And it looks like it just happens, but I know that there's so much more blood, sweat, and tears into the flight line, onto the concrete, and it's our maintainers that make that happen. But it's not just airplanes, it is also the Space Force, which we actually have Guardians here doing Space Force things. We have cyber professionals doing cyber professional things. And so I'm just incredibly proud of the whole team. Anytime I get a chance to talk to you or the units in our walkabout times, we talk about professionalism starting from a place of trust and competence, and it's got to be that bedrock of competence and excellence, which is one of our core values. So you got to know your job, you got to do your job, you got to be counted on as a teammate to do your job. But once we do that, and we start from a place of trust, which is, I know that you're doing my job, so I could focus over here and doing it well, then things normally work out pretty good, especially once we've assembled the A-team, which we have. If you're at Nellis Air Force Base, you're a part of something really, really amazing. And you could be really proud of that. You go home to mom and dad, I don't care which state of the union or which country you're from, and go, hey, you heard in Nellis? And they will have, because really, really neat things happen here.
Yeah, I totally agree, sir. And we see that quite often. We have the luxury as being a command team of recognizing some of the high-performing individuals in the wing. Sometimes you're there, sometimes you're not because of meetings or TDYs or whatever, flying, as sometimes I'm not there and there's stand-ins. But in general, between the vice, you, and myself, we have the option to see like the gentleman in the aggressors the other day, who we coined for someone who lives the tenets of this wing. He caught on his own a couple of 0-day vulnerabilities in an exercise that nobody else saw or knew about, and was a really crucial find for the Air Force and AFSOC, and probably led to some lives being saved down the road. And then we just today we just went and coined another member of the Thunderbirds who is responsible for canopy safety find, and he made sure that, which is a pretty big deal if you're dealing with an ejection canopy in the Thunderbird. So I thank you for sitting with us and introducing yourself on target, and letting the Team Bullseye know who you are. Not that they didn't know, but it's just another touch point that we can do. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be your chief, and also, again, another Team Bullseye member. This is my 3rd time here, and I'll keep coming back as long as you'll let me. So thank you for that. If you have any final words.
I just want to tell everyone that's part of the 57th Wing, Team Bullseye, or even Team Nellis, or the over 15,000 airmen that serve in the Vegas area, or any airman that I come across, or Guardian, is that you matter, what you do matters, and your family matters. So whether you realize it or not, you're part of something really incredible, and we're making a difference and important business that our nation has called us to. So thank you for what you do day in and day out. And Chief, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, sir.
Glad to be a part of the team.
All right. Thank you, Team Bullseye. If you have any questions, hit me up.